there, good to see you all. It's quarter 2, week 3, YouTube activity time. We're going to study Peter Frampton this week. This is a picture of Peter Frampton. I went and saw Peter Frampton a few years ago at a casino in Minnesota, and that was awesome. He's a great player, great singer, good musician. Here are a few jokes for you, a few dad jokes. What kind of hair do oceans have? Wavy. I have a hard time trusting trees. You know why? They seem kind of shady. Last joke. What runs all day but never gets tired? Water. Nature jokes again this week. All right. Before we get into a little bit more about Peter Frampton, I wanted to tell you something that's kind of current about Peter Frampton. He's got a muscle disease. He's got a disease that makes his muscles kind of deteriorate. He actually ended up falling on stage a few times when he was in a concert. He kind of fell because his legs were getting weak. That's kind of sad. But there's plenty to celebrate about Peter Frampton's life as well. So let's learn a little bit more about him right now. Here's what Peter Frampton looks like. He is from England. He's a British guy. And on the right, just above my head, is Peter back in the 1970s playing a black Les Paul guitar. That's the kind of guitar I have. I really like my black Les Paul. Mine is called Black Beauty. His is too. And on the left is Peter more recently, a couple years ago, playing the same guitar. He actually lost that guitar. It was in a plane crash, and he thought all the guitars he lost in that plane crash were like gone forever, but he actually got reunited with it in 2011, which is awesome. It's a great guitar. So if he was born in 1950, that means he's about 70 years old right now. There are a lot of really good musicians who are about that age. It's a kind of a classic period in popular and rock music. The 1970s is when they were popular. Here's some things I want you to learn about him. His most famous songs were called Show Me the Way and Do You Feel Like I Do. Sometimes he called it Do You Feel Like We Do, but the original was called Do You Feel Like I Do. He's a solo act. He's not like in a band with other people. When he gets a band together, it's him as the star and some other people that he just asks to join him. He's notable for a number of things. He's the most popular user of a guitar tool called a talkbox. A talkbox is a device that you can plug your electric guitar into that makes, it's got a little speaker. It makes the sound of the guitar, and then that speaker hooks up to a tube, and the tube goes in your mouth. You take that tube, it's like 6 feet long, you stick it in your mouth, and if you open your mouth with the tube kind of on the side, you can move your mouth like this, and that sound going into your mouth gets manipulated by your mouth itself, and it makes it sound like your guitar is talking or singing. It's really neat. I don't have one of them. I can't demonstrate it, but you will see it in the video. You don't actually see the box. It's down on the floor, but you will see the tube going up his microphone stand and sticking into his mouth. It's really cool. He had the top selling live album of all time. That record got broken by Garth Brooks. Garth Brooks, the country singer, has a more popular live album than Peter Frampton, but Peter's album called Frampton Comes Alive was a really big deal in the 1970s. It was the best-selling live album for a long time. Peter, back at that time, was known as a heartthrob, like someone that young people especially found very attractive. He was like, you know, a good-looking guy. And sometimes we referred to those people as heartthrobs, like they were so good-looking that they make your heart beat extra. In the video, his shirt is kind of open, so you can see his chest because, you know, he's a heartthrob. He's trying to look attractive. I think it's interesting that he is a vegetarian. He doesn't eat meat. I don't think he's a vegan, meaning that he doesn't like drink milk or anything associated with animals, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't eat meat. All right, some things we can learn from Peter. Number one, when he performs, he looks happy. He looks glad to be there. He's always having fun, and that's great. That helps the audience have fun. I actually went to see Peter Frampton with my brother about 5 years ago. And again, even at the age of 65, he looked really happy to be there, and that helped me to enjoy the concert more. Number two, he's really good at string bending, like bending that string up to raise the pitch. You'll see that a little bit in this video. He's really good at pendulum strumming. His right hand just keeps going and going and going and going, and that's what you're supposed to do. You will notice to his left in the video, his left, or his right, I should say, your left as you look at the video. So this side of the screen, there's a guy playing a 12-string guitar, just like last week when we watched Wish You Were Here with David Gilmour. There was a person playing a 12-string guitar. The person in this video doesn't really have a great pendulum. He kind of keeps stopping his hand and doing little patterns like this. You're not really supposed to do that. I'm not sure if he had a good guitar teacher or not, but he doesn't really have a good pendulum, but Peter definitely does. Number four, you'll definitely see that talk box technique. Peter is also really good at just kind of brushing his strings with the pick. He doesn't dig into the strings like, like that. If these are your strings and this is your pick, he doesn't get like that. He just barely touches the strings. And that helps him to get the up strums to be smooth as well as the down strums. So that's a good thing we can learn from him. He also, when he's strumming in this video, isn't really playing the low strings. He's not playing strings 6 and 5 really at all, as far as I can tell. He's just playing the high sounding strings. If you did that on your guitar, it would sound a little thin. It would sound a little small, but because he's in a band with other people who are playing some of the bigger strings on their guitars, it sounds fine. The other people in the band are kind of covering the low sounds, so he doesn't have to. If you're in a band, you should, consider doing that. You don't have to play all your strings if you're in a band and other people are covering some of those low sounds. Here are your questions for this week. I'd love to hear what you say about number one. Some of you have been writing not very much for number one. Make sure you tell me something. Make sure you don't just say, I don't like this because it's not my kind of music, period. That's not really enough. I want to read more than that. Number two, I'm wondering, why did you choose to do the kind of school that you're doing this year? You had the choice to do hybrid school like you're doing, but you could have done virtual school. You could have just been at home taking all your classes. So I'm just wondering why you chose hybrid. Please tell me about that. I chose hybrid because blah, 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 period. Give me something like that. And number three, of course, is the same as always. Please answer that one for me. Thanks.
Let's take a look at a few things I was just talking about. I was just talking about bends. Bend is when you take a string and go like this. Change the pitch by pushing it up or pulling it down like this. So Peter does some of that. He's really good at the pendulum thing. Keep that arm moving and not digging in too much. He doesn't do this. He just barely touches the strings, which sounds really good. I talked about how he doesn't always play all the strings in his chords. Here's a D chord, which happens a lot in this song. But he doesn't play it that way. He doesn't play it the way we do it. He does it like this, way up here. And I think he's just playing 3 strings instead of 4 strings. Normally a D string is 4 strings, but the one he's playing I think is only 3. You could actually add string 4 to that chord. Sounds pretty full. There's a chord called B minor, which I believe I've taught you before. It's a bar chord where you have to use one finger covering up several strings. In this case it's 5 strings. Here's the normal way to play a B minor bar chord. But I believe he's just doing this. He's just playing 3 strings of that bar chord instead of 5. Because there are other people in the band who are playing those strings and playing even lower notes than that. So it sounds good anyway. He doesn't have to play all the strings. he can just do stuff like this. And it sounds fine in the whole band. Cool? All right. Well, please watch that next video. Show me the way. Hope you enjoy it, and I will see you in school.